Morning, Abotai. Just to finish off our series on Hilchot Hafrashat Challah, there's an interesting Shulchan Aruch that says what is the halacha? We know in general that the mitzvah Hafrashat Challah applies to the 5 grains: wheat, barley, oat, spelt, and rye. If you make bread or baked goods from flour of the 5 grains, you'll be chayav to make Hafrashat Challah. Now, it's popular also. Sometimes people make rice bread. Rice bread, you take rice, you grind it, you make bread out of it. The halacha, Maran writes in Shulchan Aruch, that the bracha on such bread is mizonot and nefashot. Why? Even though it's not one of the 5 grains, you can't make hamotzi on it because it's not lechem really, but it is mizonot because it's satiating. What happens if you mix wheat into rice bread? Does that become chayav in Hafrashat Challah? So Maran Shulchan Aruch writes, depends. If when you taste it, there's a taste of wheat inside of it, the halacha is that we go by the taste, we go by the flavor, and it is chayav be'afrashat challah. Otherwise, it's not. There's another halacha in Shulchan Aruch in Orach Chaim Siman Tafnun Gimal that not only is it chayav be'afrashat challah, you can also use it to be yotzei the mitzvah of matzah on Pesach, which means even if a majority of it is rice and there's a little bit of wheat inside and you can taste the wheat. Now, all the poskim point out over here, even though you don't have the right amount for Hafrashat Challah, which in general is about 3.5 pounds, nevertheless, the rice follows the wheat, and we go by the flavor, and it is chayav be'afrashat challah, and you can also use it for matzah on Pesach, even though the majority of it is rice and not wheat. And rice is something that you can't use for matzah on Pesach. It's also not something that can become chametz. Nevertheless, you're yotzei because of the flavor of the wheat. There's a tremendous machloket poskim whether or not this applies only to rice or to the only to wheat or to the other grains as well. As follows: the Bet Yosef quotes the Rashba. He says that this only applies to wheat because rice follows the flavor of wheat. But any of the other grains, which is barley, oat, spelt, rye, the halacha is that even if you put those things in there, if there's no shi'ur, the halacha is that it's exempt from Hafrashat Challah. The Shach, Rav Siftei Kohen, disagrees. He quotes the Rosh and the Tur in Hilchot Challah. They say meforash that since we go, this is actually discussed in today's daf, in Masechet Chulin daf tzaditet, the Gemara teaches us that ta'am keikar is mideoraita. When we go by flavor, the flavor of something determines what it is, and that's a Torah law. And therefore, by any of the grains, if you have a ta'am of any of the grains, that makes it mideoraita as well, that makes it chayav be'afrashat challah as well, and not something that's specific to wheat. La halacha, it is a machloket, so you should take off challah without a beracha, but halachically, like the Bet Yosef says, we only apply, that's the letter of the law, we only apply this to wheat and not to the other grains. But again, in order to avoid machloket, you can always take off challah without a beracha. Have a wonderful day.